My name is Erica Reade. I'm a Brooklyn-based portrait and street photographer, and I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. I had so much fun with that lens, to be honest, like a lot more fun than I was anticipating. It was just like opening up a whole new world to me. I don't typically shoot that wide, so it was a nice creative challenge for me to shoot with that lens. And then as I got more comfortable with it, really trying to have Bergen, our model, be the focus and kind of have this like dreamy effect kind of being created around her. So I really enjoyed using it, and I would love to use it again. I really enjoyed the effect of the lens when I was a little bit below our model and the sky was much more dramatic, and we had her standing in front of some bushes or the city skyline, and it just really gave a much more, how would I describe this? I keep saying dreamy, but it really was like a dreamy quality, this kind of soft but also vibrant look to the photos. And those really stood out. I started editing some of them this morning, and just this sort of larger than life quality to them that I haven't typically shot like, and I really enjoyed the effect of that. I think in a couple of instances, a lot of my paid work involves a lot of weddings, and that seems like a really fun lens, both for, I do some really dramatic shots where like the couple is quite small and the scenery is large around them, and I feel like that would be a great lens to really focus in on the couple, but then have, you know, their background or their scenery really looking quite dramatic and, again, dreamy. Let's see if we can find another word for that. But then also inside, like with kind of like the dancing feeling of just like zeroing in on people, but just having this like kind of larger crowd in the background, the party lights, and just kind of seeing like this wide room or wherever this dance floor is. So it feels like a great lens to bring into some kind of more crowded places, but then also being able to like use the aperture to like get that couple or that person dancing and get those moments in a way that I do shoot wide like that, but not that wide. So I think that would be a great lens to try that out with. 24 is typically as wide as I go, so 17 felt quite different, 24-70. So this felt like a much different framing of like I said, in a good way, creative challenge, where things that I did not realize were in the shot came into the shot. So I think, you know, as photographers, to me, we're never done learning. So for me, it was like learning something new all over again, and then adapting and getting quite comfortable and then excited about trying something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but in the best way possible. And so I really liked being able to have this like very artistic old style lens on a modern body that I'm more used to using, and seeing what kind of images I could create with it. So when I was editing, I think what stood out to me was how dramatic, but then also ethereal the images felt, with these kind of like sharp moments that I caught with our model against this very soft background. And then moving along, some of the backgrounds were a little bit more in focus, but there was just a drama to them that I don't often necessarily capture with other lenses that I use, and I really appreciated that. I think, like I said before, I was surprised in, it really just takes in so much information. So that was something to keep in mind, and in a good way as a challenge, but like it just really takes in like so much of your surrounding. So that was just something to be aware of, and something that was a learning lesson to me, that if you are shooting digitally, it was like a nice reminder that like, oh, we want to be like mindful of taking a step back, so you're always moving your own body around a little bit more. So in a way, it forces you to be a bit more engaged and not lazy with what you're doing, because you're trying to be so mindful of what is coming into the frame. So that was something that surprised me a little bit, but in a good way, because it was like a really nice learning experience for me. Actually, I really liked the feel of the lens. It was like slower than what I'm used to. There was like a slowness to it that, again, kind of forced you to like slow down with this nice old style film camera feeling to it. So a little bit of an adjustment, but it wasn't anything that took very long to get used to or was like difficult, or it was very smooth. It was really light, which was so nice. I have so many like heavy, you're like, the downside of photography is like how heavy our equipment can be. So it's so refreshing to have something that like I was swinging around my shoulder and moving all around, and we ended the shoot. I didn't have any like sore joints or anything like that. So it was great to have such a like accessible lens. It felt very like user-friendly in that sense. It was just really and beautiful to look at. So I really enjoyed like using the lens itself. I think what excites me actually is something we didn't do, but you might know, like I shoot a lot at the beach, and I think this would be like a phenomenal lens to use at the beach because I take in so much of like the ocean and the sand and everything that I normally shoot around. Whereas shooting in the city, it was like I was trying not to have certain buildings in there. So I'm very excited to try something this wide in like a massive landscape, and then bring in people. And I shoot a lot with mirrors, as you know. So just being able to have the mirror and then this dramatic landscape behind it, which is something I want to go back and do with that lens a lot, was really exciting to me because there is like, again, this word drama or dreamy, but there is this really nice effect that I haven't quite like hit the nail on the head yet with my own work. So it gave me kind of all sorts of new ideas for how I could bring such a wide focus, especially now with the cold weather. There's no one at the beach, so that would be like a really cool project to do. Bringing something so wide to like such a wide open space, or an empty space, or anyone who's able to kind of go out into like a big open field or a parking lot or something that feels like desolate, and then bringing something in that you can like focus on and have that contrast. I think it's a really great lens for creating that kind of effect with like a thing, a person, an object, something that you're trying to get people's attention on. And then, but also like the background is so important too, and the lens does a great job of you being able to have those two things like happening at the same time in the photo. It was just a reminder of like we can get very stuck in our comfort zones of lenses and bodies, and it was a great lesson. It was a great challenge. It was like a great way to remind myself like, oh, there's a whole new look to my images that I could create. This a whole new body of work I could like now create, or make this body of work better, more interesting, or just like go in even deeper. And as I'm thinking about like this impending like long winter we have ahead of us, it could be really exciting to try like something completely different than what I'm used to doing, and that's like very exciting. I think if anything with my experience with the lens would be, I'd actually be curious to try it on different bodies and see how that would feel on different camera bodies, because I do use a few different bodies depending on the kind of work I'm doing. So I think I would love to see whether it's film or digital, like what that's going to do for the work, because I shoot both. So that's another experience I think I'd like to have with the camera, is trying it on the different types of bodies that I use, and then also trying it in low light, which is we were like in the broadest daylight when we were shooting the other day, so I think it'd be really fun to see what that would do. I'm sure it would be like incredibly like mysterious and moody, and that'd be like a really nice thing to try. So I think those are two things I would really like to see, along with the beach, is to do some night photography and then put it on a couple of my different bodies and see what other kind of work I could make with it.